Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. This is the Must Read Alaska Show, the Friday edition. I'm your host, James Baisden, coming to you from the beautiful Kenai Peninsula, the place where I call home. If you're watching the video today, you may notice that I don't have eyeglasses on, so I missed the show last week because I went up to Anchorage to have some eye surgery. I had cataracts removed and new lenses put in, so it looks like I'm seeing everything in high definition. I don't know if it'll make this podcast any better, but it's definitely changed my life. So we have a great show lined up for you today. A lot of topics to talk about, a lot of politics going on at the federal and state level. So I think you're going to enjoy some of the discussions that we have coming to you from our virtual studios. I don't have a guest today, so I'm just going to be highlighting a lot of the news articles that Suzanne Downing has worked on over the week to catch you up on. If you haven't had a chance, we have some great podcasts out there that her and John Quick worked on this week. Please download those. Go to the website, Must Read Alaska. If you get a chance, please donate. That's what keeps this all going. And we do have a great sponsor. We want to thank our sponsor for this podcast, and that is Charlie Pierce for Governor. Great show participant as well, and we thank him for his support. And again, Charlie Pierce for Governor is the support that we have for this week for the podcast. If you get a chance, please visit our website also. So hang on, let's get the news rolling and pick this thing up. So my first topic today is going to be the Elon Musk and Twitter story, where Elon Musk basically has been probably one of the biggest advocates for online free speech. And you know what? He's very much a libertarian, so I don't think he's Republican or Democrat, but he took to Twitter. He's got over 80 million followers, and him just recently purchasing just about 9% of the company, roughly $3 billion worth of shares. I think that now that he's going to be sitting on the board of Twitter, hopefully we'll see some changes take place there and maybe influence some changes on some of the other social media sites. We all know what we've seen out there when it comes to the fact checkers and how the fact checkers have become political, dealing in the last 2 years of COVID and what used to be misinformation, and how if you were on social media, you mentioned a specific word, it would get taken down as not being true or fact. And a lot of those things that they took down is probably fact today. So I'm hoping that Elon Musk has a big influence on what needs to take place. I mean, you think about any situation to where on social media you could ban a sitting president of the United States, President Trump, who was suspended from Twitter and Facebook, whenever those have become the de facto way that we all communicate. One of the ways that Must Read Alaska communicates to its 27,000 plus subscribers is through all the different social media outlets. You'll see Twitter and Facebook used quite a bit, as well as all the podcasts. And all those podcasts typically are going to be on a cloud platform, such as Amazon's cloud platform, and they all control those spaces. And that's why you've seen social media splinter. And I think the internet, you're going to see things change to where now you've got President Trump who now has Truth Social. You've got Getter, you've got Twitter. You've got all different places that people are going to because the politics of it. And I'm hoping that Elon Musk has enough sway, and of course he has the money. If he's not the richest, he is one of the richest people in the world. And I think that him purchasing this many shares is basically putting Twitter on notice, and it will put other social media outlets on notice that we need to take a look at it. Of course, the government should have done something a long time ago when it comes to silencing free speech on these outlets. They've used the excuse that they're private companies, but those private companies have become so big, they're going to have to be looked at. And I myself I was off Twitter. I took my account off Twitter whenever they deleted the president's account. I just this week reestablished my Twitter account so I could basically follow what was taking place and how crazy all the employees that work there, how you look at some of their tweets and what's going on. Just with what took place this week, you can tell that I guess we use a phrase that they have really woken up. It's going to be fun to watch because they see change coming, and I don't think he spent $3 billion to be a passive investor. I think he is absolutely going to get in there and get involved. I mean, they've already appointed him to the board, of course, because he is the largest shareholder. So if you have not been watching the story, I think it's going to be fun to watch, and I look forward to it. I hate social media, what it's got to. It's so crazy what it's done to this world. I don't think we're ever going to be able to get back to where we were. So that's why I think we're going to have to work on what gets put out there. Look, there's things that I don't like to hear and I don't like to see, but it should be out there. It shouldn't be up to me or the people that agree with me to get rid of it. And I'm not talking about things that are criminal and things that are hateful, that where we want to hurt people, but there's actually really good dialogue that we need to hear both sides of the argument, not just one-sided. And that's kind of where it's went. And a lot of us know that. So looking forward to it. Hang on and let's see where Twitter ends up at. It's going to be interesting to actually see where they end this thing at. Well, let's talk about the Supreme Court and the politics that took place within our own state with the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Our two senators split on the confirmation. Of course, as everyone would have bet, Senator Murkowski joined three other Republicans, Mitt Romney and Suzanne Collins. Suzanne Collins of Maine and Mitt Romney of Utah. Murkowski typically will join those three when it comes to these type of votes. It really wouldn't probably have mattered because they had the votes for this, but it's funny to me because I think that in this time of election, if Murkowski probably wouldn't have voted for this confirmation, would it have helped her in her election here in Alaska come November? Not sure. I don't think she's worried about it. And this vote shows that she's not worried about what Alaskans think, but I think the majority of Alaskans would have disagreed after watching the confirmation hearings of Judge Jackson. A lot of attention was drawn, of course, to the leniency that Judge Jackson provided in cases involving child pornography. I think that was a big issue. And of course, whenever she was addressing what's the definition of a woman, and of course, it kind of shows again the politics and the wokeness of where we're at, even on the Supreme Court. And of course, they're going to say the same thing about the right. And I guess the good thing for Alaskans is that the court is still leans more right than it does left. But the whole purpose of this was to get Judge Breyer, who I think was forced really to retire more than wanted to this year. So that would give President Biden a chance to nominate somebody who could be there for the next 20 or 30 years, which is what they've got. So I guess if you're a left-leaning person, congratulations, you've got your pick. I'm sure that it will come back to haunt Alaska over time. Again, having more people who don't think the way that we do up here. I think a lot of us are centered and more right-centered than anything. And I don't see how Judge Jackson is going to help the state of Alaska when it comes to some of the legal issues that we're dealing with. Senator Sullivan, thank you for standing up for your side, and you put out some good comments of why you did not support Judge Jackson. But at the end of the day, you still congratulated Judge Jackson on her achievement, and I think that was correct. And for Senator Murkowski. I guess since seeing how you are up for election this year, we'll have to see how this plays out, and I'm sure it will be one of the items on the list that will be brought up by your competitors. So I have a weekly segment that I like to call Mandate Freedom, to where we get in looking at any new or updated mask mandate or vaccine mandates, whether it's here in the state of Alaska or throughout the country. The first thing that I saw from the New York Daily News was interesting. It just come out, was the second COVID booster shot extends protection for just a few weeks, the study shows. So there was a study that included 1.25 million people aged 60 and over, and this was in Israel, that showed that the fourth dose that was given as a booster just provided about 8 weeks of coverage for what they're saying is protection, 4 to 7 weeks, I should say. So again, I'm not an anti-vaccine person, but I sure like to see more data putting out here, and how long are we going to continue to give boosters for this thing? I mean, if we're giving the boosters every 3 months, and you're getting another 6 or 8 weeks, it seems like to me it's going to be difficult to convince people to continue to do this. And one of the stats talks about here in the United States, the population, only about 30% of the U.S. population, or about 98 million people, have received a third dose, according to the Center for Disease Control data. So they're going to have a hard time convincing people to take these boosters if they're not seeing much better protection than what this study showed. And then dealing with masks, of course, airlines have asked for the mask mandate to end. There's 21 states challenging the requirement. One of those states, of course, does include Alaska. There was an open letter that the airlines put out with all the CEOs, specifically the top 7 U.S. airlines, sent an open letter to the president asking him to lift the mask mandate. It is supposed to expire on April 18th. Somebody in the White House besides the president is going to have to make that decision. If you've seen any of the videos recently of President Biden, wow, he looks in tough shape right now when it comes to his cognitive ability. And I know that I'm a partisan person, but when I watch those videos and I see him interact in public, it does not look good. It's very difficult to watch some of the things that take place. So I hope somebody in the White House will look at this. They know that this is no longer a big deal. You can go to all the open events now that take place. You see thousands and thousands of people at sporting events without masks, inside sporting events, and the masking. We now know what the science is with masking, and anybody who wants to wear it, by all means wear it. It just should not be mandated by state or federal governments. So I hope that we see some changes, and I'll keep on updating this segment of Mandate Freedom, because this needs to end. Hopefully this will go away at some point, and it continues to bug me as much as it does everybody. Well, of course, we have to finish the week off talking about the special election on June 11th to fill the vacant Congress seat that was left with the passing of Congressman Don Young. And now that we know that we have 48 candidates, yes, that's right, 48 candidates to fill the seat all over the place. And of course, at the last minute, Sarah Palin got into it, which is going to make it interesting. If you remember the June 11th election, you get to pick one, and one of those candidates then will end up being the top 4 that we will vote for in August in the general election. And that's for the special election to just temporarily fill the seat left vacant. So I guess, like every other pundit out there, I should probably go on record on who I think the top 4 is going to be. And it's not that I'm supporting any of the top 4, but this is probably the way I think it's going to play out, because there is going to be a lot of money spent. There's going to be based on name recognition on whether you can be successful when it comes to getting out there. And right off the bat, Sarah Palin has name recognition, and she will have funding. She will be in the top 4, I think, and she is a Republican. Nick Begich has done a good job statewide to get out and campaign. I think that he will be one of the top 4 candidates. Al Gross, who ran for Senate the last time, he is also going to be in the top 3. He is the Democrat who has a lot of funding that he can use and name recognition also. So I think that he gets in the top 4. And then the 4th candidate is the one that I've got 2 or 3 that I'm going to throw out there that I think probably have a chance of being the 4th. And that's going to be Josh Revak, Mr. Coghill, and of course, Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a socialist Democrat communist who recognizes that as his political party. And everybody loves Santa Claus. And I think there's going to be a lot of Alaskans, because of the name recognition, will vote for Santa Claus. And I like to think that that's a joke, but it is true. So of those 3, between Revak and Coghill and Santa Claus, I'm going to go out on a bet and put Santa Claus as my 4th pick. So I'm going to have Sarah Palin, Nick Begich, Al Gross, and Santa Claus on this date in April. That is who I'm picking that will make it into the final 4 whenever we go to the ballot in August. Going to be crazy times to watch. I'm going to enjoy this election. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be serious. The sad part about it is that Alaskans, we only have 1 congressperson. So with the passing of Don Young, we have nobody representing us in Washington, D.C. In the Congress. So I wish we had a different system. I'm not going to say that I'm confident in the mail-in balloting system that the state is going to be utilizing. They are going to try to make some changes to it. For example, you're going to have an additional signature on there that shows that you are the one who voted whenever you send in your mail-in ballot, but those signatures are not going to have to be confirmed in any way. So that worries me. And of course, sending ballots out to everybody, even if you don't want to vote, or maybe you have moved or you're no longer at your address, that concerns me. So just like what we're seeing in the Anchorage election right now with the mail-in balloting and how it's taking place, and you see what happens with the ballots and how many are going to be disqualified. We're going to see the same thing at the state level, but this is going to be something to watch. And I think at the national level, a lot of people are going to be watching how we fill this seat. So let's hang on and prepare for it. It's coming. So in this segment, I'm looking at one of the issues that I've talked about over the last few podcasts, and that's the Second Amendment and our right to keep and bear arms, specifically when it comes to carrying concealed. So here in Alaska, we do not have to have a concealed carry permit to carry to protect ourselves or our family. Just recently, about a month ago, Ohio did the same. They passed a law that was signed by the governor that Ohioans do not have to go out and ask the government to carry concealed. And it looks like Florida is about ready to do the same. Florida is going to may become the 25th state to allow permitless gun carry, which I think is fantastic. So it looks like Governor Ron DeSantis, he's going to introduce this in the next special session to see if he can get it passed to where Florida gun owners do not have to ask permission from the state to carry concealed, because the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment, basically allows us to be able to carry to protect ourselves. And I'm looking forward to watching how this unfolds in the state of Florida. I would expect that this should pass. It's common sense. You should not have to go and take special classes and permits and have to go through a bunch of waiting periods to be able to carry concealed to protect yourself. And I applaud the state of Florida for doing this, and I hope the governor can get this through the legislature down there. It's going to be a great win for the Floridians and that state. So I guess looking at politics in the big city of Anchorage, the biggest city that we have here population-wise in the state. And it looks like with the recent election that took place, not a lot of changes at the Assembly and School Board, which is surprising when you think about what took place here over the last 2 years when it comes to the Liberal Assembly pretty much closing down the city for long stretches of time when it comes to the COVID and vaccine issues that took place. And when you look at the school board and how they decimated the education that the children were receiving in Anchorage, and how long they kept the schools closed and stayed at distance learning and kept the kids in masks just until recently, so for almost 2 solid years. And you'd have thought if Anchorage was going to flip, this is what was going to flip it. And you know what? Didn't happen. Very surprising that it didn't happen. It looks like the assembly basically is still going to hold its liberal majority, and there's not going to the assembly may pick up one conservative, which would give them 3, which is still not enough to help the mayor. If he vetoes anything that the assembly does, they're still going to have the votes to override him. And then when you look at the school district, it looks like the same liberal number of school district members are going to be there. And all they're doing is to continue to, I think, hurt the school district. I know we're going to have a new school superintendent come into Anchorage here in the near future. I could probably guess on which one of the 3 they're going to pick, but I won't do that at this time. But it doesn't look like a whole lot of help coming to change things, or at least keep things in balance to where the argument can be heard on both sides. So it's going to be pretty heavenly handed to the left side of the political spectrum. And of course, you always look at the bond packages that Anchorage taxes onto the homeowners there in the city. Your mill rate's getting ready to increase quite a bit, because it looks like probably most of the bond packages will pass by the time the votes get counted. So I feel sorry for the voters and taxpayers in the city of Anchorage. That's why a lot of us don't live there. We want to stay outside, and that's why we live in the Kenine and Matsu and Fairbanks, is because we don't subscribe to the same political leanings that most in Anchorage does. Anchorage basically has turned into what looks like Seattle to me when it comes to politics, and not a good place for us to be, for those of us who love Alaska and I want to see things get better, not worse. Hey, I want to take this last moment to thank everybody for watching the Must Read Alaska podcast. Again, if you get a chance, please join us on the website at mustreadalaska.com. Donate if you can. That's what helps us keep the mainstream media on their toes, specifically here in Alaska. You're not going to find another outlet that's doing what we're doing or close to it. So we appreciate your support. You can find us on all the different social medias and all the different podcasts that push out, whether it's on Google or Apple. Please look for us, and get ready to join John Quick and Suzanne Downing again next week. They'll start the week off with the podcast. And finally, we want to thank our sponsor again, and that is Charlie Pierce for Governor. Thank you for your sponsorship. Everybody, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend here in Alaska. Enjoy the spring weather. It's coming quickly. The days are getting longer and the sun is getting brighter.